Hi, I'm Andrew McNair, and many retirees approach retirement with a healthy mix of unease and excitement. You plan and you plan and you put all the pieces together, and the time finally arrives when it's time to retire. You can't wait to be living your best life the way you've always imagined retirement would be. But there may be, understandably, some anxiety. This major milestone is finally here, along with a lot of financial decisions. One of the most frequent questions I'm asked is, Andrew, what will be different when I retire on Friday? Financially, one of the biggest changes in retirement is that you've been used to 40 years of paychecks, and on Friday, those paychecks dry up. You're going to be permanently unemployed. You've also used to track your retirement dollars into your IRAs and 401ks and annuities and pensions from a distance, but now they'll be paying your bills. Start thinking of it like this. You don't spend assets in retirement, you spend income. The truth is, if I had the choice between an extra $60,000 a year for the life of me and my spouse and $1 million in cash right now, I'd take the $60,000 a year in a heartbeat. Jonathan Clements once said, retirement is like a long vacation in Las Vegas. The goal is to enjoy it to the fullest, but not so fully that you run out of money. And so true. None of us want to go into retirement spending a lot of money and run out of money too soon. So the question is, how can you best transition from a steady paycheck to receiving retirement distributions? It can be a bumpy ride if you're not careful. The first thing you want to do is determine your gap. What do I mean by that? It's knowing how much you need versus how much you have. Everybody has the same burning question. Do I have enough money to retire? And the first step in determining your gap is figuring out how much you'll need. Many families I've sat down with are only a year, sometimes 6 months for retirement, but they have absolutely no idea how much they'll need monthly as a retiree. And that's why we give every retiree a one-page spending plan that shows how much they're spending now versus how much they'll spend in retirement. You need to know what type of lifestyle do you want to have in retirement? What expenses are you anticipating? It's critical to add up your monthly costs and expenses now so you can plan ahead. And that's why that one-page spending plan is so important. Now let's walk through it. Start with the end in mind. I always start with reoccurring expenses, housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, money for grandkids' birthdays, and so forth. Then estimate the non-reoccurring, like vacation costs. Think home insurance and taxes that you pay once a year. Once you've got a handle on how much monthly income you'll need, the next step is taking inventory of all of your guaranteed income sources. What you need to figure out is how much you'll have coming in once you retire. Add up all the pensions, Social Security, rental income, if you have real estate. Then look at the income, the dividends that are rolling off your 401ks and IRAs. Then you want to make sure that you take that and factor in any part-time jobs that you might be doing in retirement. This is where I recommend sitting down with a financial professional to crunch all of these numbers. And if you're married, keep in mind what these amounts would be if one of you were to pass away first. One of the biggest mistakes people think is if one spouse passes away, you only need half the income. Huge mistake. The final step is figuring out the gap between the two amounts, the income and the expenses, what you're scheduled to receive versus what you'll still need. Again, your financial advisor can really help here. When I sit down with my clients, once we arrive at this number, we make tweaks to their portfolio and help bridge the gap between where they are versus where they want to be. And that's a whole nother video for a different day about income planning. That's where the next step really comes in, and I'll give you a brief idea of how we do it. Once you know what your gap is, it's time to build an income plan. One way to do this, among many others, but one very good idea is solving with 3 distinctively separate buckets. This is called bucket strategies, very basic income planning strategy. Each bucket has to have its own investment objective. The first bucket should contain a guaranteed income for years 1 through 5 of your retirement. This can be so critical because when the market is fluctuating in the first 5 years of your retirement, you shouldn't have to check your account balances in the stock market daily to see how much your next retirement check will be. And remember, the first 5 years is where you're going to be traveling the most. This bucket is low risk, and it may include income streams from pensions, annuities, and other guaranteed income sources. Bucket number 2 contains your future income from years 5 to 10. The risk here is going to be more elevated than it is for the first bucket, and funds won't be easily accessible for these investments. Now, when you have the freedom to grow funds for 5 years, you can sacrifice liquidity for more return. And that's one of the things I stress in the second bucket. Now, the last income bucket is for years 10 and beyond. And this should be invested with a growth orientation, growth-oriented vehicles that are bound to outpace inflation. Now, consider real estate or securities for these funds, but don't make the grave mistake of retaining all of your investments in one melting pot. Commingling your retirement nest egg could be a recipe for a complicated retirement. You want your retirement years to be as hassle-free as possible. You want your income plan to be boring so your life isn't. Diversification is one of the keys to reducing investment risk. So spread out your wealth into different asset classes, especially in that 10-year bucket and beyond. The final topic we're going to cover today is legacy. As you plan out your 3 buckets, one of the pivotal questions that you and your spouse need to decide for your retirement is this. On a scale from 1 to 10, how important is it for you and your spouse to leave money behind for your beneficiaries? If you answer 10 and your spouse answers 1, well, there's a lot of marriage counseling to come later. How much you want to leave behind will affect how much you can spend in retirement. Any financial advisor who's worth their salt will be asking you about this so you can strategize how this looks in your retirement plan. Some retirees see leaving an inheritance as a meaningful part of their legacy. Whether their estate will go on to financially support their children or grandchildren or being donated to charitable causes or both. Whereas others feel differently. They see that they've helped their kids enough while they're living so they can live it up in their golden years and spend every dollar. And when we have that permission slip to spend every dollar, it provides more potential retirement income. I encourage you and your spouse to reflect deeply on this question. If you decide this isn't a priority, it may empower you with permission to spend down your assets and give you more financial breathing room. While it's hard for long-term savers to have their last check bounce, at the very least, if your home is paid for, your children should receive the equity from your home. To wrap up, remember that grocery stores do not accept assets. They only accept income. Every retirement plan should prioritize income that both spouses cannot outlive. I'll tell you a little secret about where the market could be headed over the next 10 years. And I don't tell everyone this. It's going to be about how it's always been. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. There are going to be ups and downs in various intervals over the next decade. People will get rich and people will get poorer. I share this joke with you because your income should not be at the mercy of the market swinging here and there. You don't want to have to bargain with Mr. Market, who could be manic depressive every year during your retirement. Don't hesitate to bring in a financial professional as you make these crucial decisions for your future and your family's future. If you're working with a financial professional that's helped you through the accumulation phase, let me encourage you to sit down with someone that specializes with retirees because the distribution phase is different than the accumulation phase. You deserve financial independence as a retiree. And my team here at Swan Capital has helped thousands of families plan their retirement. And we're qualified to introduce you to numerous investment options for you to consider and come up with a strategy that's right for you and your family. Remember, retirement is a marathon, not a sprint. So let us help you here at Swan Capital cross that finish line. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our other videos. But thank you for watching. If you have questions about your retirement income plan, be sure to give us a call at 1-800-848-8768. That's 1-800-848-8768.